What if the future of an entire people rested on the courage of one quiet girl? She did not start as a queen. She was not born into power. She was an ordinary young woman living a simple life, yet God was quietly preparing her for an extraordinary moment. When fear, danger, and injustice rose around her, she had to choose between staying silent or standing up, even if it cost her everything. This is not just the story of a crown or a palace. It is the story of courage over fear, faith over silence, and a God who works behind the scenes to fulfill his powerful plan. Sit back, listen closely, and discover how Esther became queen, and how God used her. In the great kingdom of Persia, far from the land of Israel, lived a young Jewish girl named Esther. She was quiet, kind, and gentle in her ways. Her parents had died when she was very young, so her older cousin Mordecai raised her like his own daughter. He taught her to pray, to be honest, and to remember who she was, even though they lived among people who did not know her God. Their city was called Susa. It was full of noise, color, and power. Tall palaces shone in the sun. Soldiers marched in lines. Servants hurried through wide halls. Above all of it ruled King Xerxes, the most powerful man in the land. Whatever he said became law. One day, a shocking thing happened. The queen displeased the king and was removed from her position. Soon, a royal announcement went out across the land. The king would choose a new queen from the most beautiful young women in the empire. Girls were taken from their homes and brought to the palace to prepare for a great selection. When the officers came to Susa, they noticed Esther. "Come with us," one said kindly but firmly. "You have been chosen for the king's house." Esther's heart began to beat fast. She looked at Mordecai, fear in her eyes. "What will happen to me?" she whispered. Mordecai tried to be strong for her, though his own heart was heavy. "God is with you, Esther," he said softly. "Go with courage. And remember who you are." Esther was taken into the palace, a world she had never known. The air smelled of rich oils and sweet spices. Long curtains of purple and gold hung from the walls. Servants bowed as she passed. Yet inside, Esther felt small and alone. Many girls were there, each hoping to be chosen. They were given special food, fine clothes, and beauty treatments. Some talked loudly about their hopes. Some tried to impress the palace workers. But Esther did not push herself forward. She listened more than she spoke. She treated others with respect. And because of her gentle spirit, those in charge began to favor her. Still, Esther carried a secret. Mordecai had warned her, "Do not tell anyone that you are Jewish. Wait for God's time." So she kept her words careful and her heart guarded. Each evening, Mordecai walked near the palace gates. He could not see Esther, but he prayed for her. He asked God to protect her, to guide her, and to use her life for good, even in a place of great power. One night, as Esther lay on her bed beneath silk covers, she stared at the ceiling and whispered, "God of my fathers, I am afraid. I am far from home. I do not know why I am here. But if you are with me, I will trust you." Outside, the palace lights glowed against the dark sky. The king would soon make his choice. Esther did not know it yet, but her life was moving toward a moment that would change not only her future, but the future of her people. God was already at work, quietly, patiently, placing a humble girl in the center of a mighty kingdom. The day of choosing finally came. One by one, the young women were led into the king's presence. Some walked with confidence. Some trembled with fear. The palace halls were quiet, heavy with expectation. Servants whispered. Guards stood tall. Behind the great doors sat King Xerxes, the ruler of all Persia. When Esther's turn arrived, her hands felt cold. Her heart beat like a drum inside her chest. She remembered Mordecai's words, "Be brave. Trust God. Do not forget who you are." She took a deep breath and stepped forward. She did not wear the most expensive jewels or the boldest colors. Instead, she wore what had been gently suggested to her by the palace servant who cared for her. She walked simply, her eyes calm, her posture respectful. She did not try to impress with beauty alone. She carried herself with quiet dignity. When King Xerxes saw Esther, something in his heart stirred. He looked at her longer than he had looked at the others. There was kindness in her face, peace in her manner. He felt drawn to her, as if unseen hands were guiding his choice. "This one," the king said at last. "She is different." And just like that, Esther was chosen. A crown was placed on her head. Trumpets sounded through the palace. Servants bowed. Esther became Queen of Persia. Yet beneath the gold and glory, Esther's heart was still the same. She remembered Mordecai's warning and kept her identity secret. No one in the palace knew she was Jewish. Only Mordecai and God knew the truth. Each day, Mordecai waited near the palace gates. He wanted to know if Esther was safe, if she was well. Though he could not speak to her, he watched over her as best he could. One afternoon, while standing near the gate, Mordecai overheard two guards whispering angrily. They spoke of a plan to harm the king. Mordecai's heart jumped. He knew what he had to do. He quickly sent word to Esther. That evening, Esther stood before the king. Her voice was steady, but inside she was shaking. "My lord," she said, "Mordecai has discovered a plot against your life. 2 of your guards plan to attack you." The king ordered an investigation. The guards were questioned, and the plan was proven true. The king's life was spared. "Who told you this?" the king asked. "Mordecai," Esther replied. The king commanded that the event be written in the royal records. Mordecai's name was written down, though no reward was given at that time. It seemed like a small thing, quickly forgotten by many, but God did not forget. Life in the palace went on. Esther learned the ways of royalty. She spoke carefully. She listened closely. She served with humility. But deep inside, she still wondered why God had placed her here. One night, she prayed softly by her window. "God, you lifted me from nothing and placed a crown on my head. I do not know your plan. But if you brought me here for a reason, help me to be ready when that time comes." Outside, the moon shone over the city. The palace slept. And somewhere in the shadows of power, danger was beginning to grow, danger that would soon threaten not only Esther, but her entire people. Not long after Esther became queen, a powerful man rose in the king's court. His name was Haman. He was proud, hungry for honor, and loved to be praised. The king promoted him above all other officials. When Haman passed through the palace gates, people bowed low before him. All people bowed, except one: Mordecai. Each day, as Haman walked by in fine robes, servants knelt, heads to the ground. But Mordecai stood still. He did not bow, not out of pride, but because he would bow only to God. When others warned him, he answered simply, "I am a Jew. I honor the Lord." Haman noticed. At first, he was confused. Then he was angry. His face burned with rage. "Who does this man think he is?" he whispered through clenched teeth. But when he learned that Mordecai was Jewish, his anger grew even darker. It was no longer enough to punish one man. Haman wanted to destroy all Mordecai's people. So Haman went to the king. "My lord," he said smoothly, "there is a certain group of people in your kingdom who do not follow your laws. They are different from everyone else. For the good of the kingdom, they should be removed." The king listened. He trusted Haman. Without knowing he was condemning innocent lives, he gave Haman his royal ring and the authority to make a law. Haman quickly wrote a terrible decree. On a chosen day, all Jewish people in the empire, men, women, and children, were to be destroyed. Messengers rode across the land. The news spread from city to city like fire. Fear filled Jewish homes. Mothers wept. Fathers held their children tightly. The people fasted and cried out to God. When Mordecai heard the decree, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth. He stood at the palace gate, weeping loudly. He sent word to Esther. When Esther heard, her heart dropped. "What is happening?" she asked. The messenger explained everything: Haman's anger, the king's order, the day chosen for destruction. Esther covered her mouth in shock. "But the king does not know I am Jewish," she whispered. "If he did, would he still have signed this law?" Then Mordecai sent her a message that would change her life. Do not think that because you live in the palace you will escape, it said. If you remain silent at this time, help will come from somewhere else, but you and your family will perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther read the words again and again. Her hands trembled. She knew the law. No one could go before the king without being summoned. To do so could mean death, unless the king showed mercy. She walked to her window and looked out over the city. Somewhere beyond the walls were her people, afraid, waiting, praying. And here she was, wearing a crown, standing between them and destruction. That night, Esther could not sleep. She knelt on the floor, tears on her cheeks. God, she prayed, I am afraid. I am only one woman. But if you placed me here for this moment, I will not turn away. She sent a message back to Mordecai. Gather all the Jews in Susa. Ask them to fast and pray for me for 3 days. I will do the same. Then I will go to the king. And if I perish, I perish. The decision was made. Esther rose from her knees with a new strength in her heart. The storm was coming. But she would not hide. God was about to use her courage to change the fate of a nation. 3 days passed in silence and prayer. Across the city, Jewish families fasted. They knelt on dusty floors, held hands, and cried out to God. In the palace, Esther did the same. She ate no food. She drank no water. She prayed with all her heart. On the 3rd day, Esther stood and dressed in her royal robes. The gold of her crown felt heavy on her head. Her hands shook as she walked toward the inner court of the king. This was the moment that could cost her life, or save her people. The doors opened. King Xerxes sat on his throne, surrounded by guards and officials. When he saw Esther standing in the court without being called, the room grew still. Everyone waited. The king looked at her face. He saw fear in her eyes, but also courage. He held out his golden scepter. You may approach, he said gently. Relief rushed through Esther's body. She stepped forward and touched the tip of the scepter. Her life was spared. What is it, Queen Esther? The king asked. What do you want? Even half of my kingdom, and it will be given to you. Esther took a breath. This was not a moment to rush. My lord, she said, if it pleases you, please come to a banquet I have prepared for you today. And bring Haman with you. The king agreed. That evening, as they sat at the banquet table, the king asked again, What is your request? Esther lowered her eyes. Please come again tomorrow, she said. I will answer then. Haman left the banquet proud and pleased. But when he saw Mordecai again standing at the gate, not bowing, his joy turned to rage. That night, Haman built a tall gallows, planning to have Mordecai executed in the morning. But God was still working. That very night, the king could not sleep. He asked for the royal records to be read aloud. As they were read, he heard the story of how Mordecai had once saved his life by warning Esther about the guards' plot. What reward was given to Mordecai for this? The king asked. Nothing, the servant replied. At that moment, Haman entered the court, ready to ask for Mordecai's death. The king spoke first. Haman, what should be done for the man the king wishes to honor? Thinking the king meant him, Haman smiled. Dress him in royal robes, place him on a horse, and have a noble man lead him through the city, announcing his honor. Excellent, said the king. Do this for Mordecai. Haman's face fell, but he obeyed. The man he hated was honored before all. Later that day, at Esther's second banquet, the king asked again, Now, Queen Esther, what is your request? Esther stood. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. My lord, if I have found favor in your sight, please spare my life, and the lives of my people. For we have been sold to be destroyed. The king rose in anger. Who has dared to do this? Esther turned. This wicked man, Haman. The room went silent. The king ordered Haman to be punished. He was taken away and hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. The terrible decree was reversed. The Jewish people were saved. Esther removed her crown that night and knelt in prayer. Thank you, God, she whispered. You used my fear, my faith, and my obedience to bring life where there was death. Moral lessons. God places us where we are for a reason. Even when we do not understand our situation, He has a purpose. Courage is choosing to do what is right, even when you are afraid. Esther trusted God and stepped forward. Prayer changes hearts and outcomes. God worked behind the scenes when His people cried out to Him. Pride leads to destruction, but humility leads to honor. Haman fell because of his pride, while Mordecai was lifted up. One faithful life can save many. God used one young woman to protect an entire nation. Take a quiet moment to reflect on Esther's courage and the unseen hand of God at work through her life. This story reminds us that purpose often reveals itself in moments that require faith, bravery, and trust in God's timing. Carry this message with you and let it encourage you to stand firm when your own moment arrives. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories that inspire faith and strength. Before you go, comment below and tell us, what part of Esther's story spoke to your heart the most?